I'm really excited about this topic. So my question for you, Gene, is tell us a little bit about the hidden technologies that will now have to be revealed after Dr. Greer's ultimatum at his June 13th briefing.
So, of course, the primary one will be 0 point energy, or what they call free energy, which is quantum vacuum energy. And that goes down to what I've talked about before. And Nassim Haramein talked about that when you get down to the Planck distance, the amount of energy that's there, and they did this under I think it's called Cassini or Cassini. I can't remember the exact name right now. But in Russia, they actually in the 60, I think it was 1967, some scientists were able to actually get two metal plates a Planck distance apart. And they were able to measure the amount of energy between the plates. And it was 10 to the 95th grams per centimeter cubed. And let me explain that. 10 to the 55th grams per centimeter cubed is what they've evaluated to be if we turn the entire universe into pure energy, all the mass into pure energy. That's the value, 10 to the 55th. It's 10 to the 95th. So it's an order of magnitude of 10 to the 40th more at the Planck, every single Planck distance, everywhere. That's more energy than the entire universe is in it at the Planck distance. That means essentially absolutely infinite energy. You can tap into more energy than the entire universe could have in it. So that's infinite energy at every single Planck distance, infinite energy in the quantum and at the quantum level. And so when the formulas had shown that before, and they said that cannot be right. And so what they did in the formula is they calculated that value. And so they took all of the Planck distances, how many of those little tiny Planck cubes are in a cubic centimeter of space, and they took that out of all their computations from then on. It's called renormalization, because in physics, there's two kinds of infinite values. You have infinitely small, which if you have an infinitely small error, it's not relevant. Just ignore it because it's infinitely small. If you have an infinitely huge error, it's called a nasty infinity because what do you do with that? It means your calculations are either way off or there's something you're not vastly not understanding. And so they renormalized it so they could understand. They just ignored it and took it out of everything. And then came the redshift measurements that later on, 50 years later, they found that the redshift had increased. They go, what's the driving force for the increase in the velocity of things moving away from each other? That's what that redshift means. Everything has increased its speed. What's causing it? Well, they didn't have any way to know now because they renormalized it away. So they decided to name it every time they don't understand something. They, like when they looked at what binds the atom in the nucleus of an atom, what binds the nucleus? Because all the protons are positively charged. If you have more than one, like in hydrogen, helium, they should explode. Why doesn't it explode? Because the repulsion force called the Coulomb force should cause that atom to blow apart, the nucleus. And they go, why doesn't it? So they said, well, it's the nucleus and it's really, really strong. It's way more powerful than the Coulomb force. So we'll call it a strong nuclear force. They just made it up. Same thing here. They looked at the vastness of space with this increasing velocity. They go, must be something you can't see and you can't measure. It's hard to see. Dark energy, dark matter. They made it up. Of course, the satanic groups love that because it's dark. So they make this stuff up as they go. And so in that also conveniently hides the whole force necessary for free energy. It's not there. So then people won't look for it because they go, oh, it's this dark force. I don't know if we want to tap that. It's dark. No, it's not dark. It's literally the light of the Holy Spirit and the Word of God. You're tapping into an infinite source of the infinite source of all energy there is, the infinite source that creates the universe, the multiverse, everything. So that infinite source of energy is the source at the quantum vacuum. And that's this energy that you're seeing. I hope that explains it, or I didn't get too far off on a tangent there.
Oh, you always melt my mind a little bit, and I'm excited to see what these technologies are really like. And from my perspective, not knowing all the things that it's exciting. Just a little side note on that thing, because I know a lot of people are into the healing technologies and the idea of med beds and stuff like that. I saw Greer on a redacted at the very end of the interview. It's like he snuck it in. He mentioned going down into a skiff, and he actually witnessed, and this is a retired doctor surgeon. So they allowed him to see this technology that could be used to repair a full limb. He said that he actually went down in a skiff and witnessed that. And so I felt like that was a bit of disclosure on potential healing technologies to come. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, so that technology plus the technology of anti-gravity, free energy they buried because that would sink the oil companies, because they would not have the ability to control power, the electricity, generation of energy, all of the battery stuff, all of that. None of that's, for electric cars, you don't even need a battery. You just have a capacitor back and charge it from the vacuum, from the quantum. So it's like, all of these technologies agree you truly have sustainable energy. But anti-gravity, if you get that, missiles and all of that, you have an infinite delivery platform. You could deliver any amount of payload. So the space programs, the secret space programs with anti-gravitational drive systems, it doesn't matter how many people are on a ship. The size of the ship depends, and that can be changed also, because they can change the dimensionality of a ship. The TR3s, when you go in them, they're bigger on the inside than on the outside. It's like, what? So you could drive a semi in something that looks the size of your garage, and you just drive it in, and it just goes in there, and more semis go in. And like, how are they going in there? Where's room to fit? It's way bigger on the inside. Not only that, weight doesn't matter because you're in your own energy field, your own little universe, essentially. And so weight allowance is not relevant. If you have a crew of 100 or a crew of 1,000 or a crew of 10,000, weight is not relevant in anti-gravity. When you're in the secret space programs, it doesn't matter how much something weighs, because you're outside gravity of this universe. You're in your own gravitational constant system. And you could then isolate within that too, have your own little containment systems. You could literally have a little containment sphere, and you could have neutronium in there, which is solid neutrons, the heaviest thing there is. And so, other than a black hole, of course, which punches through space-time. So you could have this little ball of neutronium in there, and it would be incredibly heavy. I mean, it could literally, a ball would get us, at a certain point, it could actually get as heavy as the entire universe, and the dimensionality and everything be shifted. And you could have something as heavy as the universe and as in a small ball, but it's in a huge space, but it's in a small ball. It's like in Men in Black. So you have those technologies, and what that allows you to do is to deliver weapon packages that are vast. You could deliver nuclear warheads or antimatter, that you'd have the containment for antimatter there too. And you would deliver it, remove the containment, it would react with matter, 100% conversion of energy. When matter and antimatter react, 100% conversion. It's way more powerful than a nuclear bomb. So if we look at these technologies they have, the healing technology is exciting, but of course that would sink, and that ties to the energy sector or the oil sector, because a majority of what comes from big pharma are fractionates of petroleum that they don't have anything else to do but pump into people, because it gets rid of this side effect or this symptom and creates other ones that then they have to have more stuff for, that they can find another fractionate that does that. And so you're pumping people full of oil fractionates, and it destroys their health. And they get on more and more pharmaceuticals, and that's exactly what they want. It's a pay cow. It's a cash cow that forever grows. And so they have as somebody gets older, the average person my age is usually on 4 to 5 subscription pharmaceuticals that cost a fortune. And so all of that would go away because you go to a med bed and you get these technologies, and then also Social Security and all of that would not be required anymore. And they're skimming off Social Security. It's a big money laundering for them. What the older people and other people pull from Social Security is nothing compared to what the deep state pulls from it. They skim a lot of it off into their dark projects. And so all of that would not be necessary because people would not grow old and would not need any of the pharmaceuticals or any surgeries or all of this stuff. It could all be just with a healing technology that's through tapping again into the almost the quantum level at first and second density, the energy blueprint for the person. And then you could bring them back to precisely how they were created by God, and they would have their perfect blueprint and the perfect structure. If you go into that medbed technology vastly enough, deep enough, you could literally regenerate a person to 12 strands genetic, not DNA, but ddNA, dodeca, or even to 64 strands. You could and that's why they don't want it out, because humanity would become an instant threat, infinite instant threat to them. They would be backset to where they were before they blew up Urantia. So this is why they don't want these technologies. The first level is just basically getting your health back. Second level, regrowing limbs and things like this. And so there's so many of these technologies that are out there that, there's sliding to parallels, there's time travel, and all of those come with responsibilities and problems that create problems. So if people don't grow, what happens, and they don't die basically, except from an occasional catastrophic accident here and there. And there's less and less of those because people are getting more intelligent, they're getting all kinds of things and upgrades going on. So if that's the case, they wanted to say, that's why they go into flat earth. There's only so much room. They can't have that kind of people just reproducing and nobody's leaving, and you keep adding, you're going to fill every square inch. Like in one of the original Star Trek episodes, they had a planet where the whole planet was full of people standing back to back to back to back, just packed, because nobody died and nobody grew old, and they had enough way to feed everybody, but nobody could even move. They just all standing up together on the whole planet. That's not the true problem at all, because what would happen if we got all the anti-grav at the same time, people would span out across the entire Milky Way, and there's planets with nobody on them. And so people could have their own planet. And so they've been hiding all of this for themselves. They wanted to corral human beings into just here and hoard all of these technologies for themselves. So yeah, I'm excited that we have to have ways to delineate exactly how it's metered out. In other words, the med beds, if we're going to heal somebody who, let's say this person actually blew their own legs off by trying to blow somebody's home up because they're a psychopath, and you're going to regenerate this person, not necessarily a good idea. So it's what do we do and how do we do it out with great abilities, and comes great responsibilities. And so that requires us to first, some of these technologies you can see with the med beds at a certain level, okay, but at a certain other level, we're going to have to get rid of the deep state, and we're going to have to get the psychopath sociopath situation and that mental situation under some kind of healing as well. So the technologies that they have, literally tens of thousands of years ahead of what we even know. They have things that are just so vast you can't even basically understand it or figure out who in the world ever even conceived of this to try to figure out how to do it. As I was learning some of their patents and things they have, I'm like, what was the scientist that had the idea to even figure out to try to do this? It never would have occurred to me at all. So yeah, these are a lot of very important and powerful questions. And the average person's all excited about it, but you've got to understand there's some certain situations, and it's got to be metered out and by and under some supervision by some selfless individuals that are absolutely in service to the highest interests of all life and the one and only God of all creation. Thank you, D.
No, thank you, sir. That was a brilliant answer. I feel like I've been waiting for it. I've gotten pieces of it, but it gave me a lot of hope. Getting a little emotional because it's just so exciting. But I totally understand the reasonable approach that you're talking about, because we got a lot of mental illness, MK Ultra and stuff to deal with first. But thank you so much, Sensei.
Thank you.